Let's talk about something else, moving through the levels of consciousness. Our enlightened teacher shares this information, knowledge, and experience with us, and we're sharing it with you. This information, to be honest, I've searched and sifted through and thoroughly reviewed a great deal to find it. However, it's typically very fragmented knowledge. I've encountered it within Vedic culture. I have also heard it from shamans in Peru. Despite these encounters, it's all somewhat veiled in mysticism, obscured by centuries of cultural overlays. But what you will find here, my teacher Gennady explains it very simply. I'll give you a very simple analogy for how moving through the levels of consciousness happens. People nowadays often hear exit from the matrix online. Everyone interprets it differently. Or birth from the matrix, or we say, when you go through the levels of consciousness, your consciousness expands and its light flows through you to the source, the absolute Atman. So, roughly speaking, you connect with all that exists and become an awakened, enlightened individual. However, people tend to use all sorts of different words for it. So, with that in mind, let's proceed and make use of this specific algorithm. I'm going to introduce some specific terms and then clarify what each of them implies, because individuals might interpret these terms in their own ways. Yet the core principle stays incredibly straightforward. And when you grasp the fundamental principle of progression through these levels of consciousness, you gain the ability to bring your mind to your side because, as you know, it's somewhat like a little dog. It can be quite disobedient, barking, running around, getting in the way, knocking over its bowl, even peeing in the corner. It's like a wild monkey all the time. However, it can also be very obedient and well trained. So you give it commands like calculate this, analyze here, check this, is it safe or not safe, what's best to do. When not needed, you switch it off. That's it. To reach this point, you really need to train your attention. To achieve this, we offer various techniques, courses, and retreats, and we share the understanding of how to accomplish it. But if we consider it from a broader perspective, the overall process appears roughly in this manner. So if we consider our universe, the mechanism we exist within, some people refer to it as a game, others as a simulation, some as a matrix, and still others as a creation. Indeed, as I mentioned, I will be using various terms and then clarifying their specific meanings. So, this very mechanism we find ourselves in, if we were to hypothetically picture it as an egg, for instance. Well, it's something like that kind of analogy. An egg, how is this structured then? Our universe, this egg we're in, how is it really structured? It consists of living wise energy. So everything around us is this energy, which in different cultures was called chi, prana, light, yes, ether. Ether, by the way, Einstein in the 20th century abolished ether. That, incidentally, was quite a thing. Well, more of a political decision than a scientific one. But that's not the point. So, everything around us is this energy, and this wise living energy, it is wise and alive, meaning it desires something, it wishes for us, yes, this little person within. It's more like it has matured, so like a little chick inside an egg. This little person, this individual, exists within this universe, and so I live my life and experience the reality and the world that surrounds me. So, let's just imagine this tiny little embryo, like a chick, still inside its egg. What does this tiny chick truly know about the world outside of its shell? Well, it probably perceives a few things, certain frequencies, specific waves, and various sounds. So, what does it experience? Perhaps it feels warmth, like when we place it in an incubator, or when a hen sits on the egg, providing warmth, and then it starts to mature faster, so it somehow perceives this world. We can also draw an analogy that as human beings, when we are just a tiny embryo, we tend to perceive the reality around us very superficially, wouldn't you agree? We can't really say anything at all about what lies beyond its boundaries. How could we? Well, the truth is we actually perceive only a very narrow range, a quite limited spectrum of light waves. So everyone knows that we can only see within a limited range of what is truly out there. And if we were capable of hearing all the sounds that dogs and cats hear, those low frequencies and high frequencies, we simply can't perceive them because our perception is limited. It's just like a little chick. In the egg, in that embryo, doesn't perceive everything that's beyond the shell. Similarly, we don't perceive what's out here, right? Yet, just as we reside within our mother's womb, we somehow sense her feelings, likely discerning her emotions, the sensation she experiences, and even what she consumes within that space. So we already have some form of perception, yet it's very restricted. But we can't truly say what exists beyond the mother's experience. We simply don't possess that kind of understanding. It's like how this child might later declare, "I'm going to become an academic," and so forth. In the very same way, we cannot precisely articulate what exists beyond the confines of this universe, beyond this matrix, this simulation, or this game. Because words can't describe it. We don't have that experience. We can't really imagine it. Our mind isn't designed for that. However, we can understand the principles that govern this universe, that which is inside the egg, and we know that our sensory perception is constantly being enhanced and developed. So, at some point, we start to become more expansive. This means that our etheric body, astral body, and mental body, indeed, all our subtle bodies, they all contribute to our development. As we develop, we begin to increasingly expand the sphere of our energetic influence. We start to exert more and more influence on the reality surrounding us. At the very beginning, we are, well, just like a small child. A good analogy, actually. A tiny child at first truly knows absolutely nothing. They are entirely reliant on their parents' care. They must be fed, their diapers changed, and taken out. They are a true dependent, completely sustained by that support. But then he grows up, he starts to take more responsibility for what he does. He's already washed the dishes, taken out the trash, then he becomes completely grown up, went to the store, earned money, and so on. So, our responsibility also grows in terms of sensations, in terms of what we transmit, that is, the complete totality of experience, which our absorbed experience constantly expands. First, there's the pure level of consciousness. I'll draw it in red because this is a kind of boundary. Well, I'm using it as a metaphor. It's clear that it's not some subtle body or some boundary in the matrix. We just need to schematically depict it since we've used the egg image. We feel the egg more passing through the pure level of consciousness. What is the pure level of consciousness? Let's label it pure. This is the first one. When you, with your egoism, driven by your desire for consumption, constantly seek to take from this world to simply consume, for example, observe how predatory we are in clear-cutting forests. We relentlessly pump out oil. So we all desire their subtle forms of consumption. We migrate from villages to large cities. Why? Because it's more comfortable. We desire easier consumption. We don't wish to fetch water or chop wood. We want it to be easy, like just open the tap and it's convenient, right? That's perfectly normal. But we are in this zone of consumption, always wanting to take, to consume, and everything that once filled us, this consumption at some point stops filling us. Why is that? Because this wise living energy, remember, it wants us to be born. And what does that mean exactly? For us to hatch from this egg, for us to be born, it means that we have to become aligned and correspondent with that which is beyond us, with that ultimate source, that field. And that field is naturally giving. It is loving, pure, always broadcasting love. It doesn't consume, it always gives. To be born, we must align with it. We must cleanse ourselves of our fears, complexes, patterns, and behavioral tendencies. So, to pass through this pure level of consciousness and expand into a bit more of this matrix space, we purify ourselves, cleansing both our psyche and our physical body from all these accumulated mental and emotional burdens, patterns that compel us to continually take, and take. So when we start to broadcast the very best that is within us outward into the world, more and more, constantly expanding this presence, and then, at some point, we realize that we are merely pure conduits for this intelligent living energy. And in this manner, just like that chick inside its egg, we have matured even further, filling a slightly greater portion of this space and reaching a pure level of consciousness. We then start to operate according to a completely new set of rules. So, when you emerge from this, onto this so-called ladder of these levels of consciousness, they draw it somewhere in religion I think it's called Jacob's ladder or something else, but that's not the point. The point is that when you ascend this ladder, you develop a strong connection, a real bond with that which exists beyond your metaphorical egg starts to grow a bit bigger. This means you begin to experience the absolute, to feel it and to gain insight from it. Understand it and familiarize yourself with it, right? And then the subsequent level is the cosmic level, which means the cosmic level of consciousness. Our universe/cosmos, it's like this egg, metaphorical, holding many dimensions, universes, and worlds. And at the cosmic level of consciousness, you know what our teacher says? He says, the most interesting thing, he says, will be that you won't just be able to visit some planet and learn all about its characteristics, such as its temperature, humidity, or even its weather, and so on. Why would you want to know all that? You can look that up online. Why do you need to know that? You can look it up if you want, but what's the point? At the cosmic level of consciousness, you'll be fascinated by how this planet, as a living organism, perceives and experiences, just as our Earth is a living entity. Similarly, everything around us is energy of different densities. This unified field of consciousness, everything around and within us, is all living, wise energy. Yes, we remember this basis. And accordingly, each of these bodies, these cosmic organisms, also possesses a unique perception of space, a living sense of existence. And that is, well, of course I can only convey this to you conceptually. When a teacher speaks about it, you can truly see the experience reflected in his eyes. But when we say, oh, how interesting, oh, how great, we understand that in all these games you can get too carried away and just stay here. That is, to remain in this egg and to rot without being born from it. Or it will progress very slowly. But our objective, accordingly, is when we discuss the cosmic nature of the second level of consciousness. Cosmos. Cosmic. Then we imply that there's something beyond that there's some kind of purpose or objective. So our goal is to emerge from this egg, to be born from it, to hatch, and ultimately to break free from the matrix. And then you can travel wherever you desire, whether it's to the cosmic level or to another place. The level that comes after this one is the divine level. I'll keep this brief to save time. The divine level of consciousness means you've essentially permeated this entire universe with your being, not in a literal sense like I've gained weight, or in terms of subtle bodies and so forth. Rather, it's about a profound sense of awareness and sensation. This implies that I am able to perceive and experience everything that unfolds within this entire universe as an inherent and fundamental extension of my own being. I've heard for a long time, not just from our own teacher, but from enlightened masters, that an enlightened person can perceive and experience any feelings and sensations of any living creature on a distant planet as if they were their own personal ones. Yes, just imagine a level of consciousness where you have practically and almost entirely filled this metaphorical egg, encompassing it all within yourself. You feel everything that happens within it, all this wise living energy. You essentially are it. We asked the teacher for a long time how to explain this, besides what I'm telling you now. Well, it could probably be expressed with greater eloquence, though likely not with more clarity, as it often transcends what can be explained or articulated through words alone. But again, why am I telling you this? Why are we, as it were, spinning yarns like this? It is so that you can gain a deeper understanding of the global scale and the sheer magnitude of the magnificent being that you truly are. And you will be able to unlock this potential within yourself when there is a purpose for this birth, this journey toward the source, toward the absolute, right? To become this, to realize yourself completely. And when there's such a goal, there's a team of like-minded people. This is a guide, a mentor who knows where they are headed, understands what lies beyond, and can offer guidance so you don't get lost on your path. When you fully grasp this immense scope, all the other petty squabbles, arguments, and minor conflicts, it's all just dust. Yeah, it's like our teacher sometimes tells us that our universe, our planet, it's like a tiny grain of sand on a vast beach. You won't even be able to find it later. So, it is also incredibly vast. And then naturally, there is the unified level of consciousness, where you become one with all existence. Unified. Unified. In other words, all existence is one for you, and that's a completely different experience which I won't really speak much about. Why? I don't possess that experience, but the teacher does. But he says, it would be better if you tried it yourselves, rather than me hammering into your head concepts that you'll twist and only confuse. And it still doesn't offer you any practical results. Other than that, consider this. To navigate through all of this, you absolutely must possess a very clear direction and a precise goal. There's a video on our channel that thoroughly explains how this particular direction and connection are established, and the process by which goals are clearly defined and set. And now, our primary objective is to ignite within you a deep desire to live, so you genuinely aspire to fulfill your true potential. If you have such a clear goal, then the energy of your search and your aspiration will surely yield results, and everything will work out for you. Thank you for your attention. I wish you all the very best.